Hey everyone, I'm Eric Cox. I'm a member of the Netcapital team. Let's allow one moment for everybody to settle in. Thanks.
Our CTO is also going to join, so please give him about a minute.
Oh, that sounds great. No problem. Feels good. We'll allow another moment. And that's Curtis, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. I'll keep an eye out for him. Maybe actually while we're waiting for Curtis, I could start with the housekeeping and I can have you start telling us about ChipBrain just generally. Does that feel good, Lisa?
Sure. Do you want me to just start?
In just one moment. So welcome again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I'm excited to welcome Lisa Vo with ChipBrain. As always, this company is actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. You can go directly to netcapital.com and search ChipBrain, or you can go to the link that I'm adding to the chat right now, or you can go to netcapital.com/companies/ChipBrain. A few housekeeping items. Please do use the Q&A functionality built into Zoom. We want to keep this as interactive as possible, of course, and Q&A is a really good way for us to keep track of all the questions as they come in. That way we can get to as many of them as possible. I do know that there's also a chat feature, but Q&A is just really so much easier to track the questions as they come in. So please do use that Q&A feature. With all that being said, please join me in welcoming Lisa Vo with ChipBrain. So Lisa, why don't you come on in here and tell us a little bit, what is ChipBrain?
Yeah, thanks, Eric, for the great introduction, and thanks everyone watching this. So ChipBrain, we are a 9-month-old company. We got started actually at the beginning of the pandemic, so a pretty crazy time to launch a startup, and I couldn't have done it without the help of my amazing team and co-founders. Curtis, our CTO, is about to join in a few minutes. The reason why we built ChipBrain, it's actually a great story. And when you visit the ChipBrain website, you see one thing. You see that we are building a sales product right now, a sales enablement product that helps sales and customer service teams better understand the conversational data that they're collecting. But that is just a small slice of our vision. And as investors, when you invest in ChipBrain, what you're actually investing in is the idea of empathy AI and persuasion AI. So that's kind of our North Star. And the way that we look at that is we've realized at the beginning of the pandemic that the amount of conversational data being produced online it's like an avalanche. It's an unprecedented amount of data that's being generated as businesses are moving their conversations online. And thus far, businesses have not kept track. They haven't had the tools to keep track of the patterns and the insights and the trends that arise across all of their conversations. So imagine you have like a hive mind that's able to listen in on every call that you've had with your customers and understand exactly what keeps coming up, what is effective in what you're saying, where are you most persuasive, where are you turning people away. And all of that data is currently lost, right? And so the idea behind ChipBrain is that if you can build AI to detect the subtle emotional and conversational cues in text, voice, and video conversations. So that means like, Eric, I'm talking to you. When I say something, what am I saying to cause you to nod? What am I saying to cause you to smile? What am I saying to cause you to lose focus and look at your phone and look at another screen? How is the tone of your voice informing me of how effective I'm being? What about your word choice? What are the things that you're saying in response to me? And so the idea is that if you can build AI to understand people, then you get a very accurate labeling of your conversation that tells you all of the points during the conversation where you were persuasive, where you were ineffective, where there was a turning point in the conversation. And this can be applied to so many other applications beyond sales. We're launching our first product in sales because the data is very abundant there. A lot of conversations are happening there, and it's a great market to build our initial capital in. But we have big visions for ChipBrain that I can go on later in the call. But I hope that clarifies, what we're doing at ChipBrain and what our North Star has always been.
And very, very interesting stuff, empathy and persuasion, AI. I look forward to digging deeper into that. Before we do, though, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got involved with this, and as well as the rest of the team supporting you?
For sure. So I'm Lisa Vo. I am a recent grad from Harvard. So I graduated with a degree in computer science at the end of 2019, about 3 months before COVID happened. I don't have a long, extensive resume. So my only other work experience was at Palantir, where I worked for a couple of months in 2020 as a software engineer. The road that led me to starting ChipBrain, I think it was really because of the people I met in the year 2020. And that was like the most transformative year for me, because that's when things started to come together. And that's when the world started changing. And we realized that the way that people are operating is changing. And people in 2020, and I believe for the next few years, this is the time when they are most receptive to change, changing their behavior, changing their habits, changing their attitude. And so I think this is actually the best time to start a company. And so we actually started ChipBrain in around May or June, along with Curtis Northcutt, who's my co-founder. I'll say a little bit about him, and I'll also, he's coming on so he can share about himself. We started the company in May. We had been, so sorry, Eric, our CTO actually doesn't have access. So is there a way that I can send him the Zoom link?
Absolutely. I will go ahead and invite him right now. 1 second. Let me copy this invitation.
I'll also shoot him a text.
Perfect. And I will send this to you right now. Okay. You should have that link now.
Thank you.
No, thank you. So you're saying May 2019.
Yeah, so May 2019.
May 2020.
Right? 20, yeah. So we started the company. At that point, I was still working at Palantir. And then in August of 2020, I decided to leave my job and go work on ChipBrain full time. Before that, at Harvard, I had started a few projects of my own, a national nonprofit that's actually doing great work today for progressive campaigns. So a political tech startup, and yeah. So that's a bit about me, and then I can share about my team as well.
Yeah, I would love you to, and then of course we'll let Curtis share his piece as well. But if you can give us a little snippet on Curtis and the rest of the team, and we'll keep going from there.
Sure. Yeah. So Curtis, there is not enough things I can say about Curtis to emphasize how tremendous he is. But we actually met before ChipBrain, and we met as he was finishing up his PhD at MIT. So he's a PhD in machine learning and AI at MIT. He invented a new field in machine learning called confident learning, the work of which is actually foundational to our early research. So I will let him speak about his background, but as far as ChipBrain goes, Curtis is our CTO. He's our chief AI scientist. He has built all of the AI models that power our technology. And yeah, he's an amazing person, and very lucky to be able to work on ChipBrain with him.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I can't wait to hear more about that. And then do you want to give us a quick rundown on John and Harry and them, or should we maybe save some of that when? Yeah. Why don't we do a quick snippet on them, and then we'll dive deeper into the tech.
Yeah. The rest of our team is incredible. We started off with 4 engineers and researchers who had recently graduated from MIT with a bachelor's and a master's. So our roots really come from the MIT community. So that's John Heyer, he's our machine learning scientist. We have Harrison Wang, who's our backend engineer. We have Harry Ryan, who's our very talented front-end engineer. Since then, we've actually tripled the team. So we doubled the team in the past month, and we've actually tripled the team since the inception of ChipBrain. So since then, we've brought on a couple of more people, PhDs, Stanford grads, as well as very experienced product leaders and business leaders who have, collectively about 90 years of experience between all of them. And really tremendous people that we're very lucky to work with every day.
Love that. And I know you added Pat Cahill, a really well-known sales trainer, and that makes a ton of sense given the first application of ChipBrain, but that'll be the only snippet we use there. Curtis, would love to welcome you in to the Zoom and let you share a little bit about yourself and how you got involved, and then we're gonna keep going into more of the nuts and bolts of ChipBrain. Oh, you're on mute.
Glad to be here, yeah. Sorry I'm a bit late, I had some issues joining, but yeah, it's good to be here. I feel like I'll share a bit about myself, but I missed the first few minutes, so I'll just share one thing, which is, I feel like, you see a web page or you see a landing, you watch a Zoom call of us right now, but you don't, it's hard for me anyway, I don't know about anybody, but for me, I feel like it just doesn't feel like, how could it be that real? But what is real is the team of 15 like MIT, Harvard, Columbia, UCLA, Stanford engineers that we have who are building like an actually really phenomenal product, which we demoed recently to our early Netcapital investors, as well as some VCs and friends and family, to quite a fanfare. It was actually a really good time. We had like a virtual party and everyone came and saw what we built and the impact that it's going to have. So in that sense, I think they got a glimpse into really how real this is and how real ChipBrain has become. When we started, we had these ideas. I was chatting with Lisa. I'm like, oh, well, I have all my MIT research. I've spent 8 years doing PhD research in machine learning and AI, working on a new field, confident learning, that with my co-authors, Isaac Chuang and Lu Jiang, who's a senior researcher at Google, we effectively invented a new field of machine learning that focuses on uncertainty. So like noise, like real world stuff for machine learning. So how do you take like data out there in the world and figure out what's wrong with it, because it's real world, it's not perfected, created by machines. How do you find all the errors in it automatically, remove all that error and only train on clean data? And when you have a company like ChipBrain that's built on building models that understand persuasion and empathy and emotion, and you want to use those things in order to help people connect with people, to sell products, to do better customer service, to be able to create opportunity for people through conversation, which is the essence of humanity and how we work with one another. And all of those labels are very noisy, like the difference between being frustrated and being angry. That's a very tiny little difference. So you have all this data, it's very noisy. So what you need is a framework, a deep, theoretically grounded MIT framework that lets you figure out all the noise, remove it, train on clean data. And that's what ChipBrain has. And so we started with those foundations and we built the team up and we have the product, and it's a very exciting time. So I barely shared about myself. I shared more about how my role has been with ChipBrain, but I'll leave it at that, and you can read my bio online.
Well, thanks for that, Curtis. Love the energy you brought, and that's a really interesting background, and I think I appreciate that kind of deeper dive into how you brought your special skill set into ChipBrain. Just going 30,000 feet again for a second, and I see the questions coming into Q&A, and thanks for that. Please do keep them coming. So we will go into traction in just a moment, but I think I'm hearing the solution pretty loud and clear. But let's take a step back and talk about the problem. Why do sales professionals need this? Are they not selling it? Are they not selling well enough? Are they uncertainty about their sales? Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone knows this, but 50% of salespeople miss quota every year. There's a lot of room for improvement. And the example that I like to draw is, take a profession like marketing. Back in the 1960s and before that, marketing and sales were kind of head to head with the technology that they were using. Everything was untargeted. It was mass broadcast campaigns. All consumers saw the same ads. You would walk down the street and you would see the same billboard. And that's how marketing worked back then. But look at what it has become today. Marketing has transformed into the entire ad tech industry, which is I believe, $250 billion industry. And that's all powered by extremely fine-grained data in how users react and behave to the content you show them. So how do they click on the links that you send? Do they reply to your emails? All of these analytics are tracked, and that has just exponentially grew the marketing market. And so what have we seen in sales though? Have we seen nearly that level of automation and technological revolution in sales? I would argue that the answer is no. In sales, we have automated a lot of the metrics, so we have fancy CRMs. We have ways for salespeople to track how many calls are they making, how long are they spending on calls on average, how many dials, how many people are they following up with, what is their close rate, how many deals are they closing, but it's all numbers, right? It's all numbers, and they're all the result of how well they do in a sales conversation. So we only see the result of their performance. We don't actually have any metrics to measure their actual performance from the moment they pick up the phone to the moment they end the call with the client. And that's the gap that we're trying to fill in. We want to go beyond the numerical analysis of people, and we want to actually understand the people themselves and the techniques and the communication that they're using to influence their customers, to influence their prospects, to connect with their prospects. And so, I hope that was a clear answer on why we believe there is absolutely a big market opportunity for ChipBrain.
Yeah, if I can add just one thing, Eric, a really clear example to think about how do these things really help sales folks, because a lot of sales folks are actually very senior and they've done hundreds of calls. Maybe they've been in sales for 30 years, maybe 50 years. Sorry, I have a lot of meetings this week. Sorry about the ping. Sorry. Let me just turn some stuff off. Okay. If you look at so a very crystal clear example, and this is an example that actually one of our pilot customers mentioned to us, and they were like, this is really useful. So they had a team of like sales folks who had 30 years of experience. So they're fantastic people. So what is there really to improve on? But the thing is that we asked them, so do you have all 30 years of your sales calls? Do you know every single moment in every conversation that you've had when you said one phrase and it led to the sale? And if you can go back through 30 years for just one person, but you can also do it at scale for every person and aggregate that type of level of information, the phrases that people are saying that are leading to a sale and the phrases that people are saying that are putting people off sales. We can go even finer grain though. So we can see what is the exact phrase that you said that causes someone to go from being skeptical about your product to being interested in your product. And we can identify at this very fine grained level. And when you can do things like that at scale and in a data form and in an analytics form across years of history, across all the employees, it completely opens up a new world of sales. I mean, that world doesn't exist. ChipBrain is creating that world. And so that's exactly that's the value. I hope it's immediately obvious, but if not, just ping me.
And Eric, I'll jump in because I know we've talked a lot about the vision that we're creating. And as Curtis says, this technology doesn't exist yet. So how do we know that people want it? Because people don't even know that these tools can be built. They know that CRMs exist. They know that Salesforce exists, but they're not asking for ChipBrain because they don't know that ChipBrain can exist. And sorry, I noticed my audio might be cutting out. Am I stable right now?
You're good.
Okay. So what we've heard from our customers is one clear example of how this actually translates into business value. Currently, a lot of managers, they try to gauge performance. Of course, they will listen in on calls, they will record calls, and they'll spend hours of their week listening to calls, trying to conglomerate information that they've gathered from these sessions and do like roundtable sessions with their team to share the best practices. But that takes hours and hours every week. So we can automate that entire layer so that you can actually this is a really great phrase that Curtis came up with, you can listen to all of your conversations without listening to a second of your conversations. So what that means is you can gather all of the insights across your, one of our customers, they do 6,000 to 7,000 calls a week. You can gather insights across all of those 6,000 to 7,000 calls without listening to a single audio minute.
Yeah, no, that really is incredible. And so really kind of drilling into this solution that you're creating with ChipBrain, what are some of the major features? I know that we're talking about helping sales teams become better communicators and with real-time emotional analyses. What else is the kind of the whole suite of services that ChipBrain brings to the table?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Lisa, fill in anything I miss. So we do two things. So there's the real-time feedback, which is transcription and what's happening. But I think that and that part is because people love it. It's exciting. People like to use that. But I think the real value and where you increase your upselling is actually in our main analytics platform, and that's post-call. So we do both because one of them is very fun and people enjoy it, and then we want to build what our customers like. But we also want our customers who are in sales, we want them to make more money in sales. And we want customer service groups to do better customer service. So our analytics platform does the following things. What it does is it analyzes, so you have both single level call analysis and also broad level call across your entire company. And we allow every company to have different cohorts. So you can have like a senior sales group cohort and your entry level sales group cohort. And what you can do is on the single level call, you can look at every single interaction and graphs of where for things like skepticism go down. So that means you're saying something that's actually causing the customer you're speaking to be less skeptical. You can also see the general positivity and how it changes over time. And you can actually click into these things like see, oh, they got really worried right here. And you can click into that and see what you said. All the calls automatically analyzed. So if you just have like an MP3 file or you do a Zoom call, it just gets automatically ingested and this is all generated for you. And then you can do really neat insights. You can look and see every time that, for example, a rep gave a pitch. And when they gave a pitch, what was the distribution of emotions from the customer? So if the rep pitched, was the customer interested? Did they not believe it? Were they skeptical? Were they frustrated by the rep? Also, every time the customer asks a question. And we do all these key intents and these key emotions at the individual level so that you can see what happened in your call and you can really do fine-grained detail to improve yourself. But then we also do a cross-call level. And at the cross-call level, that's where we do the real insights. For example, things for training and to improve training of new sales employees, but also for managers to see at scale how you're doing week to week. And the type of things that we do are we see what were the key words that were being said on average that led to upselling. When a customer asked a question, we group all those questions into groups of questions, and then we see what was the best answer to those questions. And we provide that feedback for each cohort, for each company. So you can actually scroll through and see what are all the main questions that your customers ask, and then what are the best answers that lead to selling. So that next time when you have a real-time call and someone asks that question, you know exactly what's the best answer that your best rep said. And you can use that answer, and now your worst rep is now your best rep. And so we provide that feedback and service. And there's many more things of this. We also do that for pitches and what are the best types of ways to pitch different things. We also do it when a customer raises an issue. The customer says, I have an issue with this. We have the best answers already figured out for you. And they're just based on things that your best rep said. And we know how the customer responded in post-analysis. So then we can provide those things in real time. It's actually it's really cool stuff.
I love how pumped you are. I'm pumped because you're so pumped. And that personalized feedback is super interesting. And I want to start getting some of these attendees questions in. So we're going to come back to market size, revenue model and stuff, because I want to make sure that this is interactive, excuse me. So can you talk a little bit about the traction that you have with your clients so far?
Yep. So for the past, ChipBrain's been around 9 months. Up until December, we were actually just focused on building out the technology, training the models, collecting the data. So we spent many months just collecting data, about 30 million customer interactions across 250 different companies, and making sure that we had a solid technological foundation and that our models actually worked. And then in December, we launched the product. So we built the product. We officially launched it on actually December 17th. And since then, we've gotten a lot of customer interest and demand. And I think a really good way to summarize the sort of like excitement that customers are sending our way is every time we show our product to a customer, they not only want to do a pilot with us, which we're launching our pilot very soon. They not only want to do a pilot with us, but they want to sell ChipBrain because our customer base are salespeople, right? And so we have this kind of meta interaction where you're selling a really great sales software to a salesperson, and their inclination is everyone in my network is going to want to use this. So can I partner with you to be a distributor for ChipBrain and start our own channel and like get commission somehow? So we're expecting to see a lot of growth kind of blossoming from that network effect. As far as the actual, contracts, where are we on that with customers? We are launching the product, the pilot, sometime in the next month. It's a little hazy because the engineering and the integration that it takes to hook up with our customers, native platforms and infrastructure, that we're still working out on. So our strategy is we have an initial cohort of about 5 customer companies that want to pilot with us in the spring. And we're going to work with them individually to build out the integrations that need to be built for ChipBrain to work on their software. And then once we have captured a pretty good amount of integrations and we've automated that process, then we can launch to a more massive market, and we can have a self-serve model where anyone with a Salesforce account, anyone with a HubSpot account, anyone with a Zoom account, anyone using voice calls or Google Hangouts, they can actually just directly download and use ChipBrain in a very automated way.
No, that makes a ton of sense, and I appreciate that kind of thoughtful rollout. And so what is the business? I know you're talking about pilots, but what does the business model look like for either paid pilots or future customers? How do you guys make money?
Yeah. So the vision for ChipBrain, the business model is always going to be a self-serve subscription style model. So downloadable, easy to use software, because we believe that is the future of how products should be distributed. But we are tackling it from 2 different angles. So one is kind of a more top-down enterprise sales angle, where we're actually setting up channel partnerships with major distributors with big networks that they can sell into. And that would be selling into management, right? Sales managers, VP of sales, CEOs and C-suites. And so that's one channel, and that's a much more traditional way of selling enterprise software. But at the same time, we're building up this bottoms up model where, as I described, anyone can download and use it. It's very consumer friendly and end user focused. And so in the first half of 2021, we're approaching it with the traditional top-down style. We just hired a director of sales to help us execute that sales pipeline. And then at the same time, we're building out Zoom integration so that we can launch the self-serve model in the latter half of 2021.
Very interesting. Very great. Thank you for sharing that. And we're coming about halfway through our scheduled programming. So I do like to remind people, as always, you can go directly to netcapital.com and search ChipBrain, and you can see the offering page there. Click button invest. And there's also a Q&A functionality if we don't get to any of the questions here right now. But that is, of course, netcapital.com/companies/ChipBrain. And I did add that into chat, friendly reminder. More questions coming in from the attendees. Thank you so much for engaging. Has anyone or any company that has used your product reported an increase in sales?
I'll take an initial stab. Help me, Lisa, if you want to add anything. So one thing is that we're signing NDAs with a lot of our early customers, and that's because Lisa, actually, you can help. So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that for some of these customers, like, they don't actually want to report that, for example, they are like trying to improve their sales using like these variety of companies by analyzing data. So I think there's some things that are being done on the company side, but we did have one company who, what they did is they were analyzing all of their calls by hand, and then they so like we can't share the name because we have this NDA with them, but they were doing everything by hand, and then we were able to find like many actionable insights. So we were able to show them a couple things. One is that there were a number of words that it turned out. So they had this one product that when they sold that one product, when they just said that one product, it actually increased sales in all other products. And so we were able to show them that and to quantify that, which was, it was a certain amount, but in terms of the percentage, it was like an increase of like 150%. But then we also had another neat insight, which is that one of their customer representatives almost always led to negative interactions. And when customers had issues with them, we were able to identify like just automatically that their issues, that their answers to those issues were significantly like inferior to the other customer representatives. So we were able to identify like a few folks who may have been problematic like in their staff, and share that information with them. It's hard to report what is the increase of sales for sort of like finding someone who doesn't really want to be there and them not being there anymore because they're selling less technically. But in terms of the number of sales divided by number of folks who are trying to do sales, that's obviously going to have an increase. Lisa, help me out with more like statistics that are specific.
So the customer that Curtis is referencing is a customer that we've worked with in a manner where they would send us their data and then we would run it through ChipBrain. So just to clarify, our product hasn't launched yet. We have opened up access to a number of customers who can send us their data and we can analyze their archival historical data that they collected. But the product that is launching next month is the live product where they can actually use that for all of their live calls ongoing. And so the case study that Curtis is referencing was from an instance where a customer sent us several hundred sales calls. We did the case study with them. And one very interesting result of that was a few days before they had sent us that amount of data, they had run a marketing promotion for one of their products. And with ChipBrain, we were able to uncover that there was an issue in the promotional material and there was some misleading language that a lot of customers had noticed and were bringing up again and again in calls. And when we showed this to the company, their director of sales said, you know, we actually did not know this and we're going to forward this to our marketing team so that they can redo the promotional material. So that's a very, I guess, like real life effect that a ChipBrain has had even before we've gone into formal launch.
Absolutely. No, very interesting traction and success in that space so far. And I know early on we discussed the idea that this technology can be applied across a whole bunch of different sectors. But since tip of the spear is sales, and I identify strongly with that, obviously a revenue generating, not a cost center. That seems like a good place to start off. But can you tell us a little bit about what the market looks like specifically for kind of sales enablement software, if that's the category that you're comfortable with? How big is that market?
Yeah. So how big is that market in terms of like the number of companies that could use ChipBrain? Well, our target customer profile is any company with a large, so 10 to 15 or more inside sales teams, which means that inside sales means you're conducting calls and you're reaching out virtually to clients. So any company that has a sales team that does sales calls or has a customer service or customer success team that does virtual calls. And if you can imagine, that is really every company. That most companies have at least a customer service team or a sales team. So it's a very big market. Now, speaking particularly about the traction that the sales enablement market space has seen, one example that we can give is actually some early comers to the conversational technology space, like gong.io or chorus.ai, two really great companies who kind of pioneered like conversational technology for sales. They have seen massive growth and wild success in 2020, especially since the pandemic, because I believe it's because businesses are now starting to see the value of collecting and analyzing conversational data. And just now there are starting to be tools that are cropping up for businesses to get transcripts of their conversations, AI note takers, detecting keywords that are said in conversations. And so I think the growth and the traction and the revenue and the excitement that we have seen in the early comers to the space is a really good signal that businesses will want more conversational analytic technology.
Certainly. And there are some estimates from McKinsey that this is growing pretty substantially, the market. But everybody can go directly to the offering page to learn more about those specific details. When we talk about the market and all the players in the space, what does the competitive landscape look like, and where do you view your competitive advantages within the space?
Right. I mean, I think definitely the team and the fact that we're built on like quite a bit of, I'm comfortable saying around a decade of research. I mean, I've been at MIT 8 years, but a lot of the stuff that I'm building on started with the Media Lab in effective computing, which is field that was created by Roz Picard. Who's also like one of the members of my thesis committee at MIT, actually. But we built on a lot of that work, and I think a lot of these questions, they ask the same thing I would ask, you know, when I'm investing in a company. I want to know, like, who are the customers, and how much have those customers, how much has their life benefited, and are they going to keep coming back? And the thing I think to really realize about ChipBrain is that it's a quite unique company in the sense that we're founded like right out of MIT and Harvard, and we focused on research and the models and the technology pretty much all of last year. And then we're just now about to release the product, and that's the time and the space that we're in. And so we have this handful of pilot customers and pilot data, but the real customers will come. We have a great technology. The question is going from now until then, and with the releasing it in the right way to get it to the right people. To answer your question in terms of what is our biggest assets, what is it about ChipBrain, the secret sauce that really makes us special? Lisa mentioned, for example, that there were other folks who were in the conversational AI space, and they've grown quite a bit. Folks like she mentioned Gong.io and Chorus.ai, and these companies, they really are fantastic companies, but they're really not direct competitors with us because they don't have the technology that we have. Like it's really that easy to put. The technology we have is very unique, and it's built out of a lot of the forefront of technology that I did in my own PhD research, as well as technology that's come out of MIT. So we're using like a lot of 2020 and now actually 2021 research in our models to make inferences that no other company is making. To be very concrete, no company is looking at all the past calls and saying every time that an issue is asked, map that to all the issues that are asked and find the best answer that you know is the best answer. And also there's no company that can identify things like skepticism and frustration at that level, and to be able to identify insights when you go from being frustrated to joyous, or being from skeptical to no longer anxious, or skeptical to appreciative. This type of fine-grained interaction it's an entirely unique technology, and we're building a lot of these things on top of this unique technology. So there's definitely the technology side, and then the other side is the team. It's just like a really incredible team. They're all really good people. We didn't chat too much about them, but I want to actually give some shout outs to some names for people who are listening. John Heyer is our machine learning scientist and researcher. He's also a fantastic ML engineer. He builds out a lot of the models. So I think Lisa mentioned that like I built the AI models, but the reality is I designed them and thought about them, then told my ideas to John Heyer. He got his master's in machine learning and theoretical physics and machine learning at MIT. I tell my ideas to John Heyer, and then John Heyer comes back in 2 days and he's like done. It's actually like an incredible workflow. And so we can iterate really quickly, and we've added tons and tons of the latest research to our AI models this way. We also have really great folks in the software engineering side. Harry Ryan is a fantastic front-end builder and designer. He also got his master's at MIT. We also have another guy, Harry Wang, who also got his master's at MIT in computer graphics, who does a lot of our back-end work. We've had some new hires lately. Matt Zinman, who worked on a previous startup that Lisa founded, is a fantastic developer, and he's from Colombia. And we recently had a PhD student actually leave their PhD to join us and work with us as a head of engineering. It's just like a really good team, and it's a fantastic team to work with. So I feel like the team and the fact that we have a groundbreaking technology coming out of MIT, those are probably the two like main focus points of stuff that makes us very unique and a unique value in our company.
Absolutely. And I felt like, Lisa, you look like you're going to say something. I wasn't sure. I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'm good. That was a great explanation by Curtis.
It was quite comprehensive. And then just so people are like, when it comes to the competitive analysis, and you mentioned a couple of names, like what does and I hate to use the phrase legacy software because this is such a new industry and everybody's kind of new and growing, but what, you said the things that they don't do, but what is their core that they do since they've been able to see such exciting growth in the space, especially through COVID?
Yeah, they have a great engineering infrastructure for recording calls, for transcribing calls, and for doing some very basic analysis like keyword detection or topic detection. So from what I've seen talking to customers and interacting, with customers who have also assessed other products, the primary value from these other tools is it's a good place for managers to review calls in one place, have forms like evaluation forms that they can fill out for each rep as they're listening to the call, but it still requires them to spend time listening to the calls, and there's not the AI automated analysis that they would get from using ChipBrain.
Yeah,
Got it.
I think,
Thanks.
oh,
Go ahead,
the only thing I would add is one thing that, like, it's something that you learn to sort of look for. So this is my academic side talking, right? Because I did spend so many years like at MIT and publishing papers in the ML space. Is when people, the word AI and ML has gotten thrown around a lot. Like when I started doing AI, no one cared and it wasn't like a big deal. And people were like, yeah, intelligence, how can you make it artificial? But now it's like AI this, and every new company has to be AI. It's like, oh, we use AI to change the world. But it's good to like sort of look into what that means and what is like the AI. And a good thing to look for is, do they train their own models, their own custom models on perhaps their own custom hardware, which is something we do. We built our own hardware at ChipBrain. They're GPU rigs. I designed them for the quantum physics group at MIT. And we use those GPU rigs to train like state-of-the-art models that we designed on data that we collected. So we're actually training real AI and creating like real new things. But then it's actually very common in business to call yourself an AI company, but to actually just use out-of-the-box things you download from online, like a speech-to-text thing that's just like maybe you use Azure speech-to-text and then you're an AI company, or you have a chatbot that you like hand program. And I think it's actually completely valid because those are artificial forms of intelligence. So it's totally valid, but it can be confusing for investors when they're trying to invest in real AI companies, but it's a little bit hard to disambiguate. So it's one thing to like look into, and especially it's a place where we disambiguate ourselves from people who may view other folks in the space as competitors, where we don't really see it that way because we actually are like an AI technology company, very much in the real sense, and we view ourselves that way.
Thanks for elaborating on that. I think that really was helpful for those that might not be highly technical as you guys are. So I think that really was informative. As we're getting towards the end of our programming here, let's shift gears for a moment and talk a little bit about the future. You started kind of identifying the immediate and short-term plans going forward and what that trajectory looks like on a timeline. Can you tell us a little bit more about kind of the specifics for the immediate and short-term, and then all the way into the long-term goals, and where you see ChipBrain ultimately becoming, in this industry and the next industries from there?
I'll take a first start, and then Lisa, you want to follow?
Sure.
So conversation is going to change. Communication is going to change. And in many ways, what we're doing is on the forefront of that change. And specifically what I mean is that when two people talk to each other from different backgrounds, it's not easy. Like I grew up in rural Kentucky, and then, now I live in Cambridge, in Boston, Massachusetts, very different type of people. My dad would call people from this area Yankees and joke, he's a Southern man, and he just is very different, right? So different ways of speaking, different ways of thinking. When you can use technology to allow two people who are very different, maybe one's a buyer and one's a seller, or one's a business, and one's a boss and one's an employee, or a manager and a director, and you have these two people, they need to have an interaction, and that if that interaction goes well, it's good for everyone. They make more money, or they have a better job opportunity. If you can provide a technology that allows those two people to empathize with each other better, to be able to get over the fact that they have different backgrounds, and to use words that actually allow them to understand each other, you've just changed human communication. And the best way to realize that is at the single statement, which is that language is only a proxy for meaning. The words that we say are only our best attempts to convey meaning to one another. So ChipBrain is a technology that allows you to convey your meaning to someone else better in a way that we know data-driven is going to be more effective for your goal. And so we've shown you one thing, which is sales. We haven't shown the demo here, but for those who have seen the demo, we were showing a sales demo, and we're going to nail this space. We're going to make sure that we do all of the hard things and the tiny things to nail this space. But that's not what ChipBrain will be forever, right? We're going to nail this now and do this well here. But ChipBrain will be very effective in the relationship space, in the dating space, in the education space. So 5 and 10 years from now, we see communication 2.0 being built on ChipBrain. When you're doing chats with someone, you're trying to teach someone, and you want to know what's the best way for a student to be able to learn, you need to know what's the thing you can say that's going to relate to that student with a different background to engage them. When you're trying to ask a partner, you know, what went wrong? Why are we having an argument? You know, I thought we love one another. You should be able to go back and see, oh, shoot, I went wrong here. I made a mistake. I was upset. I was angered. And now I can see a clear insight of it. This is exactly where she became skeptical of me, where she became worried, where she became frustrated, or he, or, you know, whatever the context, in a boss and managerial situation. So the technology is a transformational technology for communication. And each of these verticals that we're building on top will fill the next decade. But right now we want to focus and absolutely insist all of our engineers are on board that we are 100% focused on the sales product as we build initial capital and continue to grow ChipBrain.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Yeah, Lisa, do you want to add anything onto that? Maybe specifics in terms of timeline for the rollout?
Yeah, so the rollout is going to be in Q1, definitely, for the pilot. So the way that's going to work is, as I said, we have about 5 companies who are going to pilot with us. We're going to spend half of 2021 making sure that we nail the sales product. And that means working with our early pilot customers to make sure that the information that they're seeing is valuable all the way to the end user. And that's how we build the product. So we talked a lot about the lofty big picture of what we're doing, but the only way we can get there is by nailing the details and getting the user experience right and making sure that there is true value in what we're doing. Because it's easy to say, you know, we're going to do all of these things, but do people actually need that? And do people actually get value out of it? And so as we're working with our early customers, we have 2 users that we're focused on. We want to make sure it's a product that's going to provide value for managers, which is very obvious, but also we want to build a product that's going to provide value for the sales rep, the person who actually has to talk to customers, the person who gets fired if they do a bad job, the person who, you know, on average doesn't meet quota 50% of the time in the course of a year. So who is this person? Why do they get overlooked? You know, turnover in sales is 9 months. So the average salesperson, they only last 9 months. And companies, they'll hire 30 salespeople. They know that 15 of them are not going to work out, and they'll do, like, you know, a couple weeks of training, and then they're on their own. There's no mechanism. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, better now.
There's no mechanism for ongoing improvement and feedback. And so the way that it's worked right now, I think it's not human, you know, there's not a focus on improvement, and there's not a focus on the education of your sales rep and believing that they can actually improve their communication skills and become better salespeople. So we hope that the end user, when they use ChipBrain, they see it as an educational platform. They don't see it as a reporting platform where their managers have oversight and overhead into their daily activities and they're tracking their every move. That isn't the point of ChipBrain. The point of ChipBrain is so the individual user can learn from a collective knowledge base that is built automatically. And so they can learn the best practices from the veteran salesperson who's been there 15 years, and they can actually track how they've improved over time.
No, I think that was very clear. And we have a couple more last questions I want to get in here before we go to closing remarks. I'm giving you guys a spoiler alert. I'm old school. I love to end on a little last thing that people should take with them and why they should invest. So I'm getting you guys ready for that. But before we go there, question, could this be used with doctors and patient communication? Does it work with in-person communication? Good question.
Yeah. So this is actually an excellent question, because one of our early customers, they were really interested in partnering with us on a telehealth solution. So that's another big space, right? Medicine and health is moving online. People are talking to their therapists online. People are getting consultations with their doctors online. And what does that do to the whole concept of bedside manners? So some interesting applications that, you know, is in our vision, it's not on the product roadmap, because, you know, we're focused on our first initial application right now. But something that we've actually discussed a lot is hotlines, suicide or abuse hotlines, for example. How do you actually make sure you're giving effective help and speaking effectively to these victims? How do you know what issues to flag? How do you know what to say? When it comes to doctors and patients, what if a therapist could actually keep track of how the minor cues and the subtle interactions of their patient has improved over time throughout the course of the therapy sessions? So these are, some examples of where we could be in telehealth. Curtis has also done some research in the past to do with autism. So helping people with autism, being able to navigate the conversational cues, understanding like where to speak and when is appropriate to speak and when, you should let someone else speak. So that is to say, there's a lot of ideas floating in the pot, and we talk about these ideas constantly because we always want that in the forefront of our minds. We never want to be so deep in the rabbit hole of, this one tiny product that we forget about where we actually want to go. So yes, that's a very long answer to say, we thought about the uses for medicine. It's on our distant roadmap, and we certainly hope we can partner with the right people to get there at some point in the future.
I'll answer briefly both questions too. So I think Lisa was very clear, but yes, definitely very helpful for telehealth and for doctors, patients. You can view a doctor speaking to a patient as a doctor is trying to persuade a patient to do something, or to have an operation or a procedure or to take a medicine. And the patient has to decide, yes, I want to buy that product, or no. And so it's very similar. The other question you asked I saw was, what about in-person communication? The answer is not right now. Right now we work on Zoom, online medium. However, it's through all three modalities. So if you're texting, if you send a chat, we analyze text. If you're doing a phone call and it's just audio, we analyze audio. And if you're doing video, then you already have the audio, which we analyze. And you also have facial features, and we analyze those as well. So through any modality, text, audio, video, we handle it. But in person, we don't have today yet. We don't have custom glasses that you can like wear and have all these interactions. Although as Lisa mentioned, I've actually published a couple papers in that space called Egocentric Communications. It's a really fascinating work if you're interested. But we have not built that at ChipBrain. We're focused for now in the virtual space and audio, video, and text.
Good time to be focused on virtual. I imagine trial attorneys and voir dire experts will be interested in this down the line as well, and how they're interacting with their potential jurors. Last couple moments here. We talked about it before. I prefaced it. Closing remarks. Why should those listening right now and people that will watch this down the line, why should they go directly to netcapital.com and invest?
Yeah, I'll let Lisa finish, and I'll speak first. You should invest in us by looking at where we were. If you're able to, if you've seen where we were just 6 months ago, if you were one of our early investors, we had ideas and visions, and we were like, oh, we'll take all the MIT research, and we'll take Lisa's business experience and Harvard background, and we have this great team, and we're going to do all these things. But it was just words. It's not about the words. Look at what we built. So we now have a working pilot. It analyzes phone calls. We built this in a very short amount of time. We have AI models that actually successfully do this prediction. We're able to outperform state-of-the-art models by 3x. This is a very technical point of view in terms of why you should invest. And it's the sense that we have a team who can actually build the things that we talk about. We've shared a lot of visions, 10 years of vision. We can build those visions. We also have an enormous amount of interest right now from in the investor and customer space. And we're dealing and handling with, I say dealing because it's literally most of our meetings are investors and customers who are reaching out to us, trying to get to know us. Because we have not launched today, we cannot say, oh, look at all of the customers that we have. But that day is coming, and you can wait for that day, but I recommend you don't, because by the time that day comes, I think that it will be too late, because our offering our value will have gone up. So it's just a really good opportunity to get in early on a company that's built on a really good team, on good technology. And the last thing I'll say is, aside from the technology, the vision that we're doing is very different than a lot of tech companies. We're trying to actually build something that helps the world, which is to use empathy to improve communications, to help people who have different backgrounds to relate to one another. And that is a vision that a lot of people can get behind, and it's a vision that a lot of other people are willing to invest in. And that's the most important thing about making an investment, is that you invest in a company that has a vision that other people believe in and want to invest in. A good example is Tesla. They sold a great car, but the initial investors in Tesla, they invested in the idea of clean energy and a green planet. So when you're investing in ChipBrain, you're not just investing in a good team and a good technology and a good product. What you're really investing in is the idea that we can invent the next level, the next generation of communication that allows to increase empathy and emotional intelligence in conversations to close deals and do these sorts of things. If that's a vision you believe in, then we are the right company to invest in.
Fantastic. And Lisa will allow you to bring us home.
Sure. And Curtis and I actually have a customer meeting in 3 minutes, so we're going to run off right at the end of this. But what I will say is that we do the things that we say we will do. And that's the type of person that our team is. That's the type of person that Curtis and I are. So everything we dream of, everything we're telling you right now, it's going to happen because historically that has just been our track record. So you can believe in us. But the more important message I actually want to say is that you as Netcapital investors are very powerful. And Netcapital is a platform where you can literally vote with your dollars on the technology that's going to be built for the world. And you can think of it as a financial investment, right? You want to invest in companies that are going to give big financial return, but you also want to invest in technology that you want to see in the world. You want to invest in technology that is going to move the needle forward. And so I think that if everything we've said today, if you believe that ChipBrain is a technology that will improve the world, that you want your grandchildren to be able to use, that you think is going to improve communications between doctors and patients and increase empathy in a world that's more and more becoming less empathetic and more apathetic, if you want to see those changes, then you should be investing in technology that can help bring those goals into fruition. And it's the first time in United States history where you have this much power as an investor to literally vote for the creation of technology. So I would encourage, even if you don't invest in ChipBrain, I would encourage everyone to look at their investments that way and not just, simply as a financial vehicle to make a lot of money, which it also should be, but it's also very important to, humanity that we create good technology.
I think that's a perfect note to end on, and I know we have a kind of an urgency to wrap up here. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the attendees. Thank you to the panelists for speaking with us. As always, they are actively raising capital on Netcapital. You can go to the link in chat or go to netcapital.com and search ChipBrain. I added also a link to chat to our YouTube channel. This has been recorded and you can go there, share that liberally as well. So thanks again for all the participants. And I want to thank our panelists, Lisa and Curtis. Thank you so much for sharing with us about ChipBrain. Very excited to be a small piece of the puzzle as you're along this journey.
Well, you're an excellent interviewer. It was a pleasure to talk to you, Eric. Thank you for moderating.
Thank you very much to you and to everyone who's attending.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.